Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pre-Diet Podcast. I am Allie Virtue, functional medicine nutritionist, and your host for this Pre-Diet Podcast. This podcast is all about giving you the tools, strategies, and exposing you to conversations with professionals or people that just have really interesting experiences with health, fitness, behavior change, anything that I think that someone can share that can help you in your health journey. So today I'm very excited to talk to a very old friend from high school, actually, Taiyo Robertson, Japan-based online fitness and nutrition coach. He's a former professional basketball player and founder of Taiyo Moves. So he blends athletic training, sustainable nutrition, recovery, and real-life accountability to help his people build fitness nutrition systems that survive the week. No burning out, no overhauls you can't sustain. Coach Taiyo guides clients towards independence, helping them move better, feel better, and build skills to eventually not need a coach at all. This sums up Taiyo perfectly. I had an absolute blast chatting with him, and I love just how he talks about this stuff, because I think how you talk about it is how you end up doing the actual things, and it was perfect to get to catch up with him in this professional arena, and he is so good at what he does. I can't wait to share this conversation with you, so let's dive in. All right, welcome to the Pre-Diet Podcast, Taiyo. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Allie.
All right, so we know you're a personal trainer extraordinary. You're actually the first international guest because you're currently in Japan. Is that right?
Yes, I'm currently living in Japan. Yep, you got it.
Amazing. Tell us, for those that are listening who don't know you, if they're watching, they can see my Lake Neath Lancer sweatshirt. We knew each other in high school and then kind of reconnected once we started like kind of similar career paths. I follow all your Instagram stuff and you put such great information out there for people. But what else should people know about you to get a little context? We went to school in England, high school in England, so there's a little bit of that. You're in Japan. What else should we kind of know about you to get a good sense of who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Coach Taiyo, and I'm a certified personal trainer through National Academy of Sports Medicine. Technically, also a certified nutrition coach through NASM, but always like to differentiate between nutrition coach and someone such as yourself who's a dietitian. And
I'm actually not a dietitian,
in my personal
in the weeds. Yeah.
Oh. Sorry.
You're good. All good.
Even as a nutrition coach, though, like I'll say that like I have a good understanding of nutrition, but from what I've seen from everything that I follow about you, I know that's what one of your areas of expertise. So that's why I guess I thought, yeah. And then in my personal life, just I guess how I got into the whole personal training, fitness space. Grew up playing basketball, as you know. We went to school together in England. So always just been in the gym. Ended up playing college basketball. Eventually had a chance to play a bit of professional here in Japan. Eventually ended up tearing my Achilles. And I guess how I got into this career is as a trainer or coach is I had a lot of coaches help me get to where I wanted to get to in my life. And so me becoming a coach was kind of paying it forward, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's in a nutshell how I got here.
Absolutely. I think being a coach is probably one of the coolest jobs. My parents always thought I'd be teachers because they were teachers, but like now I see how cool it is getting to like mentor people and like work with people and just help them achieve what they want to achieve. But absolutely. Mm-hmm. Do you work with a lot of basketball players right now, or is there a very like general population?
It's mostly general population. I do have some local basketball players that I coach, some high schoolers, a couple guys in college that are trying to take it to the next level. But generally speaking, I coach busy professionals, former athletes that now work the 9 to 5, that sort of deal. Yeah.
And you, from Instagram at least, do you specialize in kind of remote training, or do you have some in-person clients?
Yes. So I focus mostly on the remote online aspect of training. I like the ability to be able to connect with people from different places around the world and the just flexibility behind it. But here in, I'm currently living in Okinawa, specifically Japan. I do have a few local clients just because it's honestly fun. And with my background in basketball, some of the people just locally familiar with me, so they ask, and again, it's hard to say no to sort of people trying to get better.
Absolutely. Nah, I'm not going to help you. You're like, okay.
Right. Like if the schedule doesn't allow it, it's tough. But yeah, I do train people locally, but the focus is remote or online. Yeah.
So where did that evolution kind of start? You started with basketball. Did it start with coaching basketball and then move to personal training and then like the nutrition piece, which was just obviously like a lot of people come to us for both. I get questions of like, can you write me a program? Like, no, it's not my superpower. Somebody else can do the exercise piece. Yeah. How did that kind of start from basketball to personal training?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started, so I coached a bit in college. Every summer I'd come back home for the summers, and whenever I'd come back, I'd coach kids, help with the high school that I used to go to, stuff like that. So I guess from there, I was specifically working with basketball, but this wasn't when I was doing it for a career. It was just coming back for the summer, trying to help out. But once I became a certified personal trainer and was looking to work with people and whatnot, I actually started with weight loss clients to begin with. I had a friend that wanted to lose some weight, and when he found out that I was becoming a personal trainer, he was kind of like my, not guinea pig, but he was the first person I trained and worked with, and we really, he really did well. I said I didn't do much. He really did well and got to his goals, and
you helped.
It was a really good feeling. It made me realize that like I kind of always thought I enjoyed fitness just because of basketball. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed the process of getting to any goal. It's just something that I like, trying to decipher that problem. How do we get to that goal is exciting for me. So after I trained my friend and he got to his goals and he actually just kept on going himself, I kind of opened up, like I just didn't get tunnel vision, just kind of opened it up to everyone and decided that instead of focusing on any specific demographic, I wanted to just focus on people who know what their goals are, but just don't know how to get there or have not been able to before because of the plan that they created maybe just didn't allow it or was too difficult to follow. So, yeah.
Absolutely. What are some common mistakes that you've found now that you've been in this industry for a while that you think people make kind of right out the gate when they have that maybe weight loss goal, health goal? What are some common mistakes that you hear a lot?
From common mistakes that people make when they're starting their weight loss journey, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're working with clients and they're like, I've tried this, I've done this.
Probably trying to change everything at once. That would probably be the biggest thing that I see. And then also not extending yourself enough grace, which I think some coaches would push back against, because if you maybe allow too much, it doesn't create the discipline, or that's the thought process behind it. But I'm big on consistency over perfection, and I know this is long-winded answer to your question, but the another big mistake people make is thinking that when they make these changes, like, okay, I'm going to start doing X, Y, Z, when in week 2, maybe it doesn't go that way, them thinking like, oh, this is the plan, or me not being able to stick to it, when really those inconsistencies or the moments that you might, hit a little roadblock are, as long as you keep going, and that is kind of how this goes. Just like with anything that you're trying to pursue, it's never like a linear path. So just reminding them that, like, just like anything else, it's not linear, and that's okay.
Absolutely. That stuck out to me when we chatted briefly on our messages beforehand. As one of your kind of pillars was rest, which I feel like is very not common, which we need rest, we need sleep, we need to do that. But one of my questions was, how do you, because I'm constantly trying to like find the right words for the right client, of like, how do we find that balance between rest and also working hard? Because I feel like there's no rules to that. I feel like it's very individual to the person, because you'll have that one person that just works insanely hard and never wants to take a rest day. And then you're dragging other people into the gym. How do you help clients find that mysterious balance?
That's a great question. I try to have them zoom out with me. So when we're looking at their week or even their month, trying to look at the full picture of what they're doing. So like for the people that don't like to rest, it's not too difficult for me to convince them to take a day off, because I let them know, just as you know, the gains or the progress happens in the rest. Like when we're working out, we're eating good, that's the process. But when we're actually resting, recovering, that's when our body's able to make those changes. And so usually when I get that across, those people are able to take that day. Sometimes I gotta just be a little bit firm, but that side's not usually too difficult. The flip side of that is how do you balance that working hard? I was gonna say going hard, working hard versus getting enough rest and recovery. Again, I try to zoom out and then let them know, all right, when we first meet, I have like the daily movement, the strength training, varies from person to person, but 2 to 3 times a week at least. The rest and the nutrition. Those are like the 4 pillars that I'm big on. And when we zoom out, I try to have them look at each piece, and from there we together talk about whether or not that this is enough for the goals that they have. Because I'll be honest, the people in my experience, especially those with ambitious goals, they like deep down know what needs to be done. It just needs to be explained to them clearly, and then how to put in that work. But as far as the effort required, maybe I've been lucky with the people that I've worked with, but usually when I have a conversation with them, because it's a team effort. Like I'm big on that with my clients. Like we're trying to figure it out together. It's not me coaching them. And so when we're having that discussion, we usually can, I guess I've gotten lucky that we've usually always come to a common ground. Like, okay, we see that we could probably use some more daily movement, but when we meet for the workouts, you clearly do great, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I navigate that.
That makes sense. And I think that's a huge benefit to being both, right? Personal trainer and nutrition, because they're expecting both, right? They're probably most of the time versus my clients are like, well, I'll hire a nutritionist and hopefully they don't make me work out. And which I don't know why. I'm surprised sometimes. Like, I'm not going to write your workout program, but like you need to be doing something. We're going to talk about it. We're going to make sure you're doing it. We're going to make sure you get enough movement, track your steps if that's applicable, all that kind of stuff. But I also love from watching you work by Instagram, obviously, but it seems like pretty minimal equipment approach. Like it looks like you work with what they've got, whether they have a gym membership, whether they're in the gym and doing remote training, or they just have some bands and some home equipment. What does a person really need? I'm sure it obviously depends on their fitness level and what they want to achieve, but it looks like one of the things I love about the way that you work is like you make fitness very approachable instead of, demanding a gym membership. It looks like you really work with the person. What is kind of the minimum equipment required for most people?
I tell people as long as they have some space to move, water and a towel, they're good. Like you said, it does vary on the person's goals. So for a basketball player or an athlete maybe trying to play college or professional, we might need to get in the gym, might need to use some bands for that resistance. Because when you're able to push weight, we're able to work on our absolute strength, which is great for sports and whatnot. But for most people, for myself included, relative strength, like how strong we are in relation to our body weight, is really the one that carries over into everyday life. So that's usually my main focus. And one thing that I've learned working with people is that a lot of them either don't believe that they're athletes or think that like certain things have to happen for them to view themselves as a person who's getting fit or athletic. And I'm big on like, you don't need any of that. You could go to a park, you could be in the living room, you could be wherever and get a good workout and feel good about it. Like, it's not like, oh, the home workout was less than the weight room workout or anything like that. So I try to get that point across. Because honestly, personally, like, yeah, I do go to the gym, but sometimes I don't want to be around all those people. So I go to the park, I go to the beach, I work out at home, stuff
That's
like
true.
that. So
That's
yeah, I'm just being honest. Yeah.
Yep. I did a home workout yesterday, and it definitely feels like a plan B, but that's because I know that I'll probably work harder with other people, depending on the scenario. But yeah, if you're in an emotional state where it's like, I don't want to people today, knowing how to like give yourself a good workout at home, I think really helps, because that's going to help. That's a lifestyle thing. One of the things you said, like, does this plan survive the week? Which is, I'll circle back to that. But I love what you said a second ago with like people not identifying as an athlete. I think that's so true. I feel like if people didn't play sports in high school, they're like, well, I'm not an athlete. I'm like, I'm way more athletic now than I ever was in high school. I just don't have a sport that now has a jersey I can wear every weekend, Like, it's just so funny. But I think that's a big piece for people being like, oh, no, I am an athlete. I exercise. It's a thing I do. Just like, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'll pay taxes type of thing.
You're right.
Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, that's not an option. There's really big consequences for not doing that. Can you talk a little bit about like the mindset shifts that you find helpful to like talk about with clients so they can make that shift into, no, actually, like, I might be a stay-at-home mom, but like, I'm an athlete. I might be a corporate warrior, but like, I'm also an athlete. How do you communicate that with clients?
I'll be honest, the mindset shift is one of the more challenging aspects of coaching. I try to start by getting to know the person, because everyone is different, right? Where their headspace is, where they come from. So I try to learn them, understand where they're coming from, listen to what they're saying, and then if I'm able to find some things in what they're saying, how do I say this? Sometimes
you kind of find examples
when
the
people are
sometimes.
I try to use, because a lot of times they feel a certain type of way in this space, like when it comes to their body or their health, fitness, but in their career, in their personal life, whether they're a parent, wife, husband, in many ways I look up to them. And so I'll give them examples, and through working with them, like how I design their week, making sure that, again, they're able to be consistent. I try to let the actions and things that they do just build that proof up on their own. Because just trying to tell someone like, you're this, or it might work in the moment, they're trying to get through the last rep, like, there's no quit in you. That type, but just in general, it's kind of hard for that to stick. So I try to make sure that when we work out, when we have conversations, that I'm like trying to like plant that seed. It's like Inception. Like, you are capable, you are.
It is,
XYZ. And
yeah.
But it's a challenge. And for some people that I've worked with, just us meeting consistently, I've seen who they are and what they believe about themselves just change. And then for others, they're just a bit harder on themselves, and we go through ups and downs. But I tell them all the time, as long as they keep showing up and for themselves, showing up is the win. I know it sounds corny, and like you do have to put in the effort afterwards, but more oftentimes than not, when people show up, they do. So,
absolutely, I think that's so true, and
I don't know
it's
if
funny
that
to
answers
see
your
how
question,
much
sorry.
some of those are. It's all great points. So many things that come to mind. But I think you're right. I mean, the first thing of like just showing up, and even in seasons of life where I haven't had like all the time or, time I guess I would want to put towards like fitness or goals or whatever. I feel like that's when you resonate with people the most. And it really is just like showing up, and it's not the best workout, but as you get so many years into this industry, I think I've been doing CrossFit / college softball like 13 years. And over that time period, I've seen so many people that have quit completely, like for like 3, 5, 8 years. And then they come back, and one, they're super hard on themselves. And two, they're, digging themselves out of a deficit versus like, if you just gave like half-ass effort, but still show up, like it's amazing how much fitness you can kind of maintain. And I think that goes back to the piece of like, I'm a person that doesn't quit. I'm the person that still shows up, does the minimal effort, because I know I can give more if I just give myself the opportunity, but I have to go do the thing to have that opportunity to do more.
Yeah. I love that.
Sorry, my internet was struggling. Let's see. When you're, I agree. And this also probably why I like having these conversations or just doing this podcast is talking to people and hearing how else, because I don't think there's a right answer to like, how do you make someone become a healthier person? Like that's in my head when I'm coaching people, because I do want them to become a healthier person, and then they don't need so much, motivation to do all this stuff. It becomes easier. And even to the person who's overtraining and maybe under fueling, it's like once they realize why they should be doing those things, they're like, oh, I'm on it. Okay, I want to be the best I can. I'm going to take a rest day here because Taiyo said that was actually going to help me with my gains versus like just, ignorance is bliss. But once you know, and you're starting to like solidify that new version of yourself, it's kind of fun because you get to like mold it and you're like actively creating it. But it can be a fun process.
It is. And that's to your point about the molding. Like I do try to get that point across. Like even though I know I'm fascinated by the process, I know it's not the same for everyone. A lot of us are like outcome based. Like how, if we get to our goals, determines kind of whether or not we're not worthy, but have value. But I try to get that point across. Like every time they show up, every time they choose a good food option, every time they get good rest, every time they get a good workout and get their steps, they are literally being the person that they said they want to be. And I think that's just like, that's like really cool. Like every time you do it, it's a win it's like you get the chance to win you have a lot of chances to feel good about yourself. I think when you like really dive into the process, like, man, last week I may have had 2 of these, but this week I'm only going to have 1. Like you should feel good about that. And I do have like clients, I'll sometimes have clients bring their journal to the training session because not everyone's big into journaling, but if I have them bring it to the training session, they seem to enjoy it, so I'll have them do that as well. So that's kind of another way too. I think writing it out, seeing it for themselves, it's kind of like self-affirmations. And I think, yeah, that stuff works.
I think that's super helpful. I had a client talk to recently, and she's like, oh, I just need to like start tracking my stuff better. And I was like, I think that would actually be less or relieve some stress, because our tendency is to go for that all or nothing mindset, right? So people will often say like, I need to plan my meals better next week, or I need to plan them all out, or I need to have all my lunches ready, or whichever, which is actually a lot of effort versus like, if we just tracked how many times you ate out the week before and were made like a suboptimal choice, we might not need to go 5 for 5 as far as lunches this next week. Like 2 or 3 prepped from home is like still a win, still a move in the positive direction. But again, it's kind of like actively breaking up with that like perfection mindset, which I think is so helpful when they can like see it of like, oh, I can still make progress and I didn't have to be perfect. It's like, oh my God, what? It's so helpful.
Right. No, that's so true. Yeah.
When you mentioned a second ago of like helping them kind of design their week so it is very applicable for them, how do you go about that process? I mean, fitting all the things in, right? Making sure they're getting daily movement, working on their nutrition. What could that conversation kind of look like with a client when you're trying to really help them make a plan that is going to actually survive the week and work for them?
Yeah. This is the part where the listeners are probably, they might roll their eyes a little bit because I'm going to use the word that you use that you might get. I don't know what your reactions to tracking are, but
yeah. Oh, I know.
Usually when
I nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually how I'm big on like meeting people where they're at. So when I first meet someone, we have that discovery call, that consultation, you know, I'll have them give me a brief rundown of what their week looks like. So if they're getting 5,000 steps or 6,000, whatever it may be, general overview of their nutrition, the strength training, and then what their rest looks like, how much sleep they're getting. That's usually the first thing I focus on is sleep. And then from there, depending on what their goals are, that's where it's a conversation. So let's say if they get 5,000 for daily movement when it comes to steps, I use that 8,000 as kind of a general benchmark for most people. So I may tell them, okay, we would, for your goals, since you have knee pain, we don't need you running or nothing, but we need to get those steps up a little bit if it's possible. How does 6,000 instead of the current 5,000 that you've been doing without thinking about it sound? And then from there, we'll kind of slowly work our way up. Maybe if the adherence to the new plan is good for 7 days consistently, then we'll take it up to the next level. But there's always, there's adjustments too. There's times where I overshoot, or I'll be like, how about 7,000? And I'm like, okay, I think I can do that. And then we realize like, probably should have made it 6,000 first and then work our way up, sort of thing. So it's a little back and forth, but over the years, I like to think I've gotten pretty good at kind of seeing where a person's at. Because how people talk kind of lets you know where they're at as far as their goals and whatnot. So
absolutely. I think you learn a lot, and I feel like it's probably like very clickbaity or like viral content of like we see coaches that are like not, sometimes they are like kind of making fun of clients or like you should just do this or just do this, and it's very clickbaity and like it looks very simple online. But when you get in the one-on-one conversations with clients of like, I usually make a note in my head of like, I don't think I have enough social equity yet to bring this like touchy point up yet, or like this is actually going to be a hard thing to address right now, but I always kind of save it for later when I feel like I have a little bit more kind of equity in the relationship and be like, I think I can bring this up because they got to know me, I got to know them, I see that they're really struggling with this, or this is really important to them, maybe I can bring this up now. And it's usually when I see it as like low-hanging fruit of like, this would really help us. For example, like people might be surprised to know I had this one client that was just having a lot of soda, excuse me. And we actually worked together for months without me really touching on that. And then the intake started to get up to a large amount every week. And so I was like, I'm usually not the one that harps on like this one bad food, right? This one food is causing all your issues. But I was like, numbers wise, this is getting up to close to like 2,000 to 3,000 calories of soda consumption for the week, like just from soda, not from food. And I think that's the only time in my career I've ever really highlighted that, which is a lot. And I was like, hey, by the way, I don't know how important this drink is to you, but like it's adding up to a lot. And if we change this one thing, like you're going to see a lot of results from it. And she's like, oh, I don't really care about it that much. Now at the beginning, she did care more about it, I think. But then we can make that switch. But if I had started with that, I don't feel like that would have built as much of a rapport. It'd be like, take this out, this is awful, versus like, how do we feel about this type of thing.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I think even though people do come to us for help, I read something along the lines like just offering suggestions or telling someone what to do in like the human brain, it can interpret it as like an attack on the person. So yeah, I'm big on just, like you said, building up that equity, that rapport. No, again, it's a two-way relationship. Like they have to work well with you, enjoy your company, and vice versa. It really is like a partner thing, sort of, in like a, in that sense.
It really does have to be a partnership, because like we don't have to live their lives, right? We don't eat their meals, and I love that too when people are like, what do you eat? And I'm like, this. And they're like, well, I don't like that. I'm like, great, you don't have to. Like, we can find your meals that you like to eat and go from there. But I love sports analogies like that, because I think so many people put so much pressure to get this stuff perfect, like you said, to like change everything right out of the gate, versus like one of my favorite analogies to use of like, okay, if you're teaching like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old how to play baseball for the first time, you're like, all right, kid, let's watch this video. This is how a major leaguer does it. You hold the bat like this, you aim here or whatever. And like, you wouldn't just expect them to hit home runs all of a sudden, right? Like they would mess up. You're going to mess up for the next decade before you get kind of good at this stuff. And one of my favorite questions to ask is like, what, especially when talking to like youth about this stuff, of like, what happens, which I did do this in like a middle school classroom. I was like, hey guys, what happens if you mess up at practice? And someone was like, oh, I have to run laps, I have to do this, and they just like really got put through the ringer. I was like, okay, well, that was a bad example. In life, if you mess up, not too much happens, right, with this stuff, because like you said, there's so many opportunities to win or learn something and realize like, oh, okay, that didn't work so well, like I need to mix something up. But sports analogies are so helpful for getting those things across.
I agree. Sometimes I feel bad for all the sports analogies I use. I'm like, there's more to me than sports.
You see the eyes roll. I know. You got to know your audience.
Right.
Like, okay, maybe I need a finance one.
I know.
A shopping analogy. gotta have different options.
For sure.
Absolutely. Let's see. When it comes to strength training, I think you already mentioned this, but how much do people actually need to be strength training? Because I think a lot of people, especially if they maybe don't identify as an athlete or haven't worked out a bunch, they see people on Instagram, they think I need to be in the gym like 2 hours every day. What have you found that's very effective for like general population people that do just have those general goals?
3 times a week, moderate to intense strength training sessions, 45 minutes to an hour max, and general population is good. For people that are extremely busy, don't have the time to get 3 workouts in. For general population, most people could probably get away with 2 relatively intense workouts, really feeling that burn, but don't ever need to be working out for longer than an hour in my opinion. You can be in the gym for longer than an hour and get good work in, but as far as the strength training goes, from what I've learned and what I've read, is anything past that 60-90 minute mark, and most of us get diminishing returns because we can't put in the same effort or focus into the movements, and that, as you know, is super important. So yeah, for those wondering, if you're able to work out, get 2 to 3 strength workouts in. 3 allows you, a little bit more wiggle room on the intensity. But if you're able to get 3 workouts in a week, for most of us, we're good. And for those that can only get 2, just push a little bit harder. You should be more than fine as well.
That's great. That's so accessible. I think a lot of people would have a hard time finding an excuse not to fit that in, which is good. makes it accessible. How do you get your clients started in their nutrition journey? how does that process start? Do you start with tracking? Do you start with just like simple habits of like, let's get more protein or vegetables? How do you start someone off on their nutrition journey?
I'm going to say 90% of people, I'll have them track their nutrition for the first 7 days. Or if they're like kind of already giving me the middle finger the moment I say track, I'll tell them like 1 or 2 days out of the weekday and then the weekend. So I'm just kind of like, I was like, just give me, I just need to get like a good idea. Like this is just data for me. So that's usually how I start them on their nutrition. For some people that have, because some people, come to you just having worked with a different coach, maybe they moved or, whatever. So for those people, if they already have a better understanding of what they eat and how they eat, then I'll just let them tell me, and then we can go from there. But for the people that are trying to see the numbers on the scale change, decrease fat, put on muscle, it's hard for me to not. The tracking works so well. It's just good. It works.
It really does. And I kind of make the analogy of like, it's really hard to save money if you have no idea what your bank account is at or where you're spending your money on. Like you're just clueless, right? Like it's great to like change your habits of like, I only bought 7 things this week. And you're like, but one of them was a car. Like, well, that skews it. Like it's great to have the habit changes or doing different things, but yeah, it's you're just missing information, right? And especially when clients come in kind of with a notion of like, I'm going to work with this person for 3 months, and then get this X result. And we know like 3 months is a quick turnaround time. Like if I were to like drastically make changes for myself, having such a high foundation of these habits, like that would be still challenging. Versus, if we actually track really in depth, like we can find out a lot of information. They could probably almost all, I would agree that 90% of like the clients that do the best, they track their food. There are other ways around it, but I think you're right. A lot of people do give you the middle finger of like, I don't want to track stuff. I don't want to track my food. And people have definitely come in saying that before. And I was like, then you got to be okay with like a actual, like a very specific system of like, this is what you eat. These are general amounts that you eat. You stop when you're full. You hit these workouts. You hit these steps. Like it's like a checkbox, very clear cut situation, which I think you also talked about, right? Of like really creating a system for people, right? Having a plan, making your environment work well for you. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the environment over willpower is big for me. When, for example, if a person has things in their pantry or in their kitchen that, may not be in their best interest, even when they tell me like, oh, I avoided this, and they tell me, it was in their kitchen. It's always like a bit of pause for concern because I don't know, but more than likely, even though you may have said no this time, just having it that close to you in proximity all the time is going to make that very difficult. So, like setting ourselves up for success, like if a person doesn't drink enough water, just always have, a water bottle with you. Hopefully not plastic like myself, but something like that next to them at all times. And then when it comes to like whether they track or like you mentioned, following a bit more specific guidelines, since the tracking is just not really going to work out for them. Making sure that like that meal plan too, there's familiar things on it for them. So that's why it differentiates from person to person depending on where they're from, how they grew up. But just trying to, again, make it to where because it's not easy. Like I'm gonna just say that right now. Even though I preach like creating a system that works for you, allows you to be consistent, it's still not easy. So I of course let them know that, and then from there we just try to, kind of adjust knobs where we need to. Because sometimes what's the issue on day one is not the issue on day 60. And day one issue might be solved, but maybe something kind of pops up elsewhere. Maybe it doesn't. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Because I think I'm still creating my system of like habits and things that make me feel good. And now it's pretty dialed in, but also it's like over a decade into this stuff, right? But I feel like once you master those kind of like behavior changes, like you can spill over to any other aspect or area of life. And same thing, I think that kind of starts that positive cycle with nutrition too. If you find like the nutrition system that works really well for you, you feel really good and you're like, oh, I want to feel like that more often. And maybe the candy in the pantry is really just like kind of presenting another decision that I just don't want to make. Like I want to eat like this and I don't know why I still have this in the pantry. So I think that goes to your point of, if we can make the system or the environment a little bit easier. So we don't even have to like register that. It's so helpful.
It is. I'm sure you found in coaching your clients, like, them knowing is so important. Like, if, it's not just going to be dried chicken, broccoli, and potatoes every meal with water. Like, you can have a drink every once in a while. You can really have everything. Just how often we have it is what needs to be looked at. But I like it when the people that I'm working with can go out with their friends, have a good night, do the cheat meal, whatever the people want to call it, and then like that's not the end of the world. Like, I still had a good weekend, still made good choices here, and I know that it still doesn't make up for, like, because I depending on what their calorie intake is, we kind of assign, like, depending on their goal, a certain percentage of wiggle room for meals and snacks, stuff like that, drinks. So them knowing, like, oh, I'm still, like, good. My macros are still good. My calories are still good. It's just, it's nice. It's nice.
It really is. It makes me reminds me of what somebody else said, because I asked her, what are the signs of, like, a client's gonna do really well long term, like they got it, they're ready to graduate, you're not worried of like, oh, she's gonna rebound in like 2 months or whatever. And she said that she's like, when clients can vacation and like they still want to exercise to feel good, they still eat reasonably but have some fun stuff, she's like, that's when I know like they got it, they don't need me, they're good to go. Is there anything else that comes to mind, or like words? Like you said, I listen to like how people talk about food, and if they say that stuff in a not stressed tone versus like, oh my gosh, they're worried about what they did over the weekend, versus like, that's not my normal. It's okay. Does anything stick out for you? Like when like, oh, a client's really got this?
That is a great point. How they talk about it, what your friend said is true. If that would be one. That would be one for sure. If they went on vacation and just express what they did without any, heavy emotion behind it, because they know that's not their norm. I love that. Just in general, not super specific to nutrition, but one way that when I'm like, oh, okay, the teacher the student has become like the teacher, is when they start like doing things on their own. Like they almost course correct them. They do course correct themselves before I even get to it, or they ask a lot of questions. Well, maybe that's an early on thing. The clients that I have early on that ask me questions and really like want to pinpoint the issue, they tend to become the ones that are also like down the road. I went on vacation and I had a drink, but we're good, and that sort of thing. So.
That's a great point. Almost that question in reverse of like, what are those early signs of like, oh, this is going to go well? And I would say like they're willing to track as one, because it's like, let's just learn as much as we can. Call this like nutrition boot camp, but it's really going to be longer than 3 months, ideally. But I would say, they ask a lot of questions. I don't know if you see this a lot of like people saying, I know what to do, I just not doing it, I just need an accountability buddy. And for me, I feel like that person is not as open to information. Do you find the same thing? Is there any, like, call them green flags, red flags? Yeah, and that early on in the process?
Yes. Yeah, I would say I've heard that one. Did I see this question before we got on? I don't know if I thought about this one.
I think this was off the cuff. I didn't think about this. Yeah, so this is, yeah.
I like this is a good question. Good question. Early on, I will say, I can't think how people. Okay, well, I'll say people that are. I ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, like how ready are they? And 8, any number below 8 does scare me a little bit, but it depends on where it's coming from and the conversation before that question. So that's one, and then this is more of I think a people red flag, but like when I'm trying to tell someone what they could do better and they kind of do the as I'm talking, that one can be tough. Yeah.
Agreed. Because that kind of sets you on your back foot a little bit of like, do you know this already? And I've met some people that just kind of do that as a mannerism, and then it took me a while to figure out like, oh, that's just what they do, like that's how they talk. But agreed, that's becoming, hopefully it's not becoming like a trigger phrase for me. So like, I know what to do, I just haven't done it. And to me, that's just not something I would want to say to like a business coach, because I don't know everything. I feel like I've read a decent amount of stuff and like terms are familiar, but like I'm not the best in business in the world, so I should probably just just listen and see what information I don't know, or also how it's reframed. And this is again why I like having these conversations, because like we've touched on a lot of things that like I don't think are earth shattering, right? Like we should move every day, we should strength train and stuff like this. And so like hearing it again, but like rephrased or from a different person, I think is so helpful. And we still learn a lot and realize that like those basics really do make a lot of difference.
Absolutely. And to your point, now that I'm giving it more thought, I think I know what to do, that sort of line, going back to what we talked about earlier as far as the mindset, that's not in line with like that growth mindset, the trying to learn, so to speak. So it kind of just, in big picture wise, it's something that maybe sometimes needs to be like discussed, because it is good to like, even I ask my clients like, what could I do better? Or they'll, maybe play the sport or something, and they'll ask me something about fitness. And I know us coaches like to act like we know everything and anything and everything. You definitely don't come off that way at all, by the way. But I know a lot of us coaches can be that way. But like we learn from them too. Just as they learn from us, we learn from them too. So yeah, I think it's important for both ways. Like if they're telling me something, I'm not gonna do that to them. Like, oh, I already know. Like, I'm going to listen. I may already know, but I'm going to listen. And then likewise, you may already know. Sometimes I'm like a broken record, but just hear me out.
Absolutely. Like, let's try something. Absolutely. Yeah, because like I work mostly with general population, but there's definitely, I had one client that did a 100-mile race. And I'm like, that's not an average person. And so like, let's try this stuff out. I can research stuff, I can look stuff up, but ultimately like the end of one situation of like, does this work for you or not? And even if they are a fairly general population, like you're still just workshopping stuff with them. Like you said, it's a partnership, it's a trial. We're going to practice this stuff, see if you love it, hate it, open to it, or you just want to like completely exit and not try that habit out. But I find the same thing with nutrition too. Like I have my basic principles of like protein, fiber rich plants is probably the base. And then after that, like there's a lot of room for interpretation. What are your kind of like, we talked about you have your clients tracking. What are your kind of top priorities for nutrition when they're starting that journey?
Top priority, similar to you, veggies, protein, fiber, and then like because I was actually going to ask you the same, like what's a non-negotiable for you when it comes to nutrition? Again, depends on the person's goals, but I think this is very general, but everyone should have a decent understanding of what they're putting in their body. And I know that sounds like, for some people that may sound like, well, how would you not know? But you'd be surprised if you really sit down and like think about what you put in your body over the past like 7 days. People struggle to kind of know what's going on there. Because we just got so much else to think about. So that's, when it comes to like what to eat or how to eat, I would say, the veggies, protein, and even to some degree, I like to tell people about that, the order of eating it too, like when it's on your plate. And how like having the veggies first, for a certain demographic provides that volume and satiety. So that's kind of long-winded again, but
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's great, and hopefully it reiterates the point of like, don't need to be perfect. We need these basic things, and if like the foundation's there, like there's a lot of room to work with. There's no hard and fast rules, I don't think, when it comes to nutrition. But I was gonna say non-negotiable with nutrition, probably one that's not talked about too much is just like teaching people how to stop before they feel too full. Because even if you give someone a calorie budget, quite often I find they'll realize like, oh, I have 150 more calories. Like, let me go find a snack. And I'm like, but did you need a snack, or did the calculator tell you that you could go get a snack? And then they, maybe eat a little bit over, or just the kind of mindset of it. And I'm like, how about we just like learn to eat and like chill, be done. And I don't think that takes a longer conversation, right? Versus like, here's the formula for your macros, and this is exactly how many grams of protein. And I don't know how much you find in opposition to that too, of like when you actually calculate someone's protein, especially probably more women than men, but women really struggle to get kind of anywhere close to their protein without like over supplementing, which supplementation is fine. But I feel like that's a big, like, again, probably a middle finger from like some of the ladies are like, I don't want to eat that much. And I'm like, well, can we get close to it? But what's your experience with that?
I would say early on, it usually is a challenge to get enough protein in, for most, men and women. But like we had talked about earlier, kind of meeting them where they are. So if they're willing to track and we can get a rough idea, let's say they're having, maybe only 40 grams of protein per day. Then the following week, asking them to have, maybe they have eggs for breakfast or something along those lines, Greek yogurt, asking them to have just a little bit more of that is not too much. And then I do usually, depending on the person, but I do suggest like going to get some protein powder just on days to make it easier. It's not a meal supplement. I don't want people to view it that way as a replacement, but just to kind of build up that belief in themselves, like, okay, I can get the protein in. Now, reducing the protein powder intake and meeting our macros through real foods, kind of just eventually trying to level those out. But for some people, having that supplement, especially for like my athletes, as you know, like it's helpful. But it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy. The protein is probably the most difficult one. And then the carbs, as you know, I'm sure, like, it's just a information thing again. Sometimes people want to, like, cut it out entirely. And I'm always like, don't do that.
But they taste so good.
Yeah.
I had a client recently, and I don't think this is the wrong approach, but like I saw a big weight drop. I was like, oh, what clicked? What happened? And he's like, I cut out all starchy carbs. And I was like, oh, okay. Totally fine. That client has like a little bit of a deadline in like the fall. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so you're on a little bit of a timeline, career related one. So not just totally aesthetics or anything like that. But I was like, let's just talk about why this worked. And so you don't think that you always need to do this. This is fine for right now, but I always wanted you to know why, right? And I think that's like one of my biggest pet peeves with like the diet industry of like you said, I want just people to be aware of like what they're putting in their bodies. And then you can make the choice, right? Because we're all working with different situations. It's like, I don't know, harping on people for overspending. But I'm like, but if they make more money, like, go for it. But we don't want you to be overspending and being not being aware that like, oh, that was too expensive for my financial situation. Same thing with food. You look at what an athlete eats and maybe what, like an athlete supplements with. I see that a lot sometimes too. People start a workout program. They're like, oh, I need a pre-workout. I need an intra-carb. I need a post-workout. And you're like, whoa. Like, protein shake. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get the protein shake up. But like, we don't need like $300 worth of supplements every month to be like a fitness girly now. But, it's always fun to like, let's just talk about why this worked. And I feel like that's also sometimes when I'll get an eye roll of like, oh God, lecturing. But I'm like, but I just want you to know. So you heard surprised.
I know.
But is there any myths that come to mind for you that whether it's like people needing to cut out carbs or anything along those lines of like, you're like, hang on a second, let's debunk this a little bit. It's not actually how it works. Does anything come to mind that you chat about with clients, either fitness or nutrition related?
Oh. Yeah, this one actually hasn't come up recently, so it's been nice. But the juicing, cleansing thing was at one point kind of a problem for me. Like, I don't know. This was like a couple years ago maybe now, but like, that was being pushed a lot, I think, in the fitness and nutrition industry. And so I was getting a lot of people that were just like, oh, you're going to be, they show me their green juice or whatever. And it's got 50 different things in there. I'm not against juicing, by the way, or there's, a little bit like that. But the idea that that's like the cleanse your body needs was an issue. That was a big one.
That is a good one. Absolutely. And it's so funny because I feel like people want to put you in a camp. You're either pro this or pro that. And you're like, it's fine. Like, if you like it, like, go for it. Yeah. But I just don't want people to think, like, this is a magic pill. Because I find that happens a lot. Of people will underestimate the basics that always apply to almost every human, no matter the goals. And versus, like, get super detailed into, like, I need to be doing cold plunges. That was it. It wasn't a calorie deficit. It wasn't my strength routine. I was missing the cold plunge. Or I can't afford a sauna, so I can't be, peak optimal fitness. I'm like, what? No. It's not the case.
The cold plunge one. Have you gotten I've seen cold plunge stuff online, but I haven't personally heard that. Have you've had some cold plunge?
I've had some people do it. I don't have like a big problem with it. It's more so that, again, people think it's a magic pill. I think it's helpful, but because my husband will he loves the sauna. My God, he could stay in a sauna forever. And he also does like the cold showers right after. And it'll wake me up. Like, I think it's a great like caffeine free way to like wake yourself up. But I don't think it's magic. And I think it would probably help like 1% compared to like all my other habits. Combined, right? It's like a true, like the tiniest, like micro habit supplement type of thing. So I like just put it in context. I think it's nice sometimes. I think it's helpful, but also always like, quick to put things in context of like, even with supplements, right? Of like, this will help a little bit for this specific reason, but it's going to be nowhere near as helpful as like you going for a walk or actively building muscle or eating more fiber, right? So people just know. So there's no mysteries of like, this magic supplement cured everything, or this $5,000 sauna cured everything.
Right. Yes, absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, well, to wrap up, there's a couple questions. Yeah, hit me.
Okay. Sorry, I got one question. I gotta ask you.
Go ahead.
Because I feel like
of course.
You've talked about this on your page. How do you deal with the emotional side of nutrition? Like maybe like it's an emotional eater. Or, there's a lot of emotions tied to our nutrition. Like it's a big part of who we are as a person. How do you kind of go about that, if you don't mind me asking?
I love that question. Again, because I think not that I was forced to get interested in this because it does come up so much, but I think this is like the next challenge as a coach of like, how do I master this? Or just get better at that skill? Because you're right, like so many roadblocks come up with like emotions or like mindset or like, again, people know what to do, but I can't get them to do it. And to me, that's the same spot of not knowing what to do, right? Because you're not doing the things. Like we're still missing some information if you're stuck at like, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. It's usually emotions or maybe some like old narratives we're telling ourselves around food or something like that. I'm a big question person of just to get curious, like you said, like build that partnership even more to learn like, what are they thinking? Sometimes I'll have them like back up and like, okay, this was a moment where we could have potentially made I want to say a better decision, but like you've expressed that you weren't happy with this outcome from making this choice. So like in that moment, like what were you thinking about? How would you coach yourself to be better if you can like look back at that scenario and like coach yourself up? Because that's eventually what people will be doing, right? We won't work with them forever. So I find like giving people questions to work with to kind of coach themselves through those moments if like big emotions are happening. Also like helping people pause, make less decisions, and then usually emotional toll kind of goes down, like you said, of kind of like helping their environment. So their overall like I think of like motivation and discipline as like a battery. And so like people might look at us and think like, wow, they're so disciplined. They work out all the time. They eat their vegetables. And it's like, that takes like next to zero level of my battery for the day, right? Because I should be doing those things, right? If I'm not doing those things, like I have some problems. But for the client, like that's might be like 80% of their battery because they're trying so hard at all of this new stuff. So getting really curious, helping them lower their to-do list, and that's where you said like small steps at a time, so it's not such a big effort all the time. That's exhausting. Anything else as far as emotion? Probably asking questions about how they grew up around food and learning some of those oppositions. I had one person say, I'm not eating chicken breast, that's poor people food. And she grew up with not a lot of money, and they had a lot of leftovers, a lot of chicken, and a lot of beans. And so that for her was like, no, I'm not doing that. I have more money now. I'm not eating those things. I'm like, got it. Okay. So I'm not going to suggest those anymore.
Yeah.
Unpacking those things. That's a big, that comes up a lot of like people reference their childhood and how they grew up around food. And I'm not a therapist, right? So it's a delicate line, I think, but also just kind of getting curious, and it might fall into like motivational interviewing, but just kind of talking through like, I had a client recently talk about, this comes up a lot, right? America, big portions, people want to get their money's worth. Food is expensive. So you go out to eat and you're like, well, if I don't eat all of that, that's $9 on the plate. I'm like, yes, but like that could be $9 towards your next meal if we take it home. Or we could also say eating all of that makes me spend more time in the gym. It's not a great comparison, like calories for macros, right? But, it gets to the point of like our values need to shift. Like we used to be solely focused on getting the most amount of calories for the dollar. Now we need to like have that growth mindset, right? Of like, how does this serve me? Eating all of this does not really align with my values of being the healthiest person or being really kind to myself. Like that's kind of not being kind to myself. But I love unpacking those things and just listening how people talk about it, and then kind of going from there. And if you can ask them kind of sneaky questions so they kind of realize what you're getting at, and you're like, all right, fine. they can kind of realize where you're going with it. But those are fun.
I love that.
Delicate situations.
No, that's
sometimes.
great. That's great.
But how do you deal with those things? Those are probably like the biggest challenge, right? When it comes to coaching.
Yeah, I'm honestly still learning to navigate that. For some people, it seems to be easier to have that conversation. Maybe I don't know. It just seems to be easier. And then for others, I can tell that I'm beating around the bush a bit. And I'll sometimes express that, I'll be pretty transparent about, like, on one hand, I feel this. On the other hand, I feel this.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, sometimes I get a little because like you said, I'm not a therapist, and I let them know that too. Sometimes I will suggest, outsourcing, because I do the behavioral side of things it's only the information for so long before it becomes more so like there's other things. Because even though there's a lot of information online to confuse people, we all know that walking is, regardless of our goals, going for a walk is probably going to be healthy. We know to eat our vegetables. Like we're taught that growing up, stuff like that. So, the behavioral side of things is the emotions tied to nutrition. That is something I'm still, even though I'm almost in. You said you're 13 years. That's amazing. You got a few years on me. I'm coming up on I think so, year 10 here shortly, and it's something I'm still learning and growing in as well, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I find I think and speak about nutrition and fitness and all the things in such a vastly different way than I did 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And also that's changed from just listening to people and seeing how they think. It's so fascinating. And that's why I always like just asking people before we say, like, that's a bad food, don't eat that, or why did you do that, or anything along that genre of tone. I just want to, like, why do you think that? Tell me about that. And then you can kind of usually find out more about, like, where they learn their nutrition information, and also gives you context of, like, what you're working with, of, like, okay, I need to be careful talking about this realm of things, and, be very maybe scientific of how I talk about food. And so we try to start to pull away from the emotions of food instead of, like, let's just talk about food as in, like, it's a machine that works in our body type of thing. And yeah, it's always a new challenge, depending on who's sitting in front of you.
It's
awesome. Taiyo, this has been so much fun. I mentioned.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just thinking for a second, like you kept mentioning, like, the questions, and it's so true. Like, one of my clients, I kept having him realize things through the questions I was asking. He was like, "You'd make a great CIA agent." It's like,
absolutely. Like, I never told you what to do. You figured it out on your own. I just asked the right questions. Like, is that really a good option?
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me.
Right.
Awesome. So cool. All right. Well, a couple closing questions. In general, if you're talking to someone who is just about to get started or restart their health journey, what's kind of the top advice or message that you would give to them?
Consistency over perfection, and be ready for the, like, road bumps. Like, that is by design. I would say it's by design. Like, not always hitting your markers is going to be how you get to your goals, to be honest. If you can just accept that, keep moving forward, you'll be good. You'll be good.
Absolutely. And then one of my favorite questions, I didn't think it'd be my favorite question, but it quickly is becoming it. In a culture that it's just so normal, at least in American culture, Westernized culture, it's so normal to not be healthy. It's really normal to not be able to, walk a mile or anything like that. what is something that you would love to see normalized to help us at a population level get healthier?
I'm biased, but playing sports as an adult. I know it's not
good one.
super unpopular, but I think that I wish that was more normalized. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. That's a great point. No one's ever brought that up before, which is why I think I like this question so much, because I get such different answers than what I'm maybe expecting. But I think that's, going back to what we started with, like, I think I'm more athletic now than I was at 15. And that's kind of funny. You hear a lot of like, I want to get back to my high school weight. And I'm like, I was not capable of much at 15. Like, I could not do much strength-wise, athletic-wise, got injured all the time because I had no muscle. Like, I think that's a fantastic one. And one that'll lead to a lot of longevity and like great memories with like playing with your kids and being able to actually like play with your kids, whatever sport they're doing.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Taiyo. All right. Well, where can people find you? What's the best place? Is that a website? Is that following on Instagram? How can people reach out, especially if they're looking for a remote trainer?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Taiyo Moves. So it's Taiyo, my first name, Moves. YouTube is the same, and website is also the same, www.taiyomoves.com. If you're looking to get to your goals, you need some flexibility in that online remote space, be that person.
Absolutely. Fitness, nutrition, remote, zero excuses, people. Don't need much gym equipment. Absolutely. Amazing.
Right.
Awesome, Taiyo. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us, and we'll probably chat again soon. All right, thank you so much for listening to that entire conversation. Before you go, make sure you check out Taiyo's website, follow him on Instagram, follow him on YouTube. Make sure if you are watching this on YouTube that you subscribe to the channel, you like this video, share this episode with a friend if you could be so kind. If you could leave a review, rate it, anything at all helps us grow the show. I appreciate it so much. And before you go, make sure you also subscribe to the Free Shit Friday email list. You can go to parksidenutrition.com/subscribe and you'll get free resources that will help you along your health journey every single Friday. That's all I have for you today, and I will see you in the next one.